Hello, good morning, my ladies and gentlemen of the press. Greetings to you all, my viewers and subscribers all over the world. This is your one and only Okute Daily Talk, bringing to you this Saturday morning broadcast. Well, you can call it broadcast, you can call it a reaction to the news I found this morning at the Arise Television. This one is about what the APC is doing. This one calls my mind back to one of my videos I posted yesterday about what Isaac Fayose said about P2B and his unending standing ovation he received from people anytime, any day. And I still remember that particular part that says that APC is very, very angry, and that is why they are fighting in tooth and nail to make sure that they discourage and what will I call it, and disband Labour Party. And when I'm not talking about Labour Party in general, but obedient movement. Because of why? Because somebody whom they assume to lose election anywhere he goes, whether in the airport or in the marketplace or on the street or even inside his bedroom, he still receives standing ovation. That makes them to be questioning, who is this P2B? That this man, despite losing election, according to them, despite losing election and falling distant third, that he still receives praises from people who's supposed to be even pitying him and be sorry to him. He received praises from them for free of charge. So that is what triggered them. You know, they have done a lot of things. One is putting confusion in Labour Party schools. That is number one. Number two, they leaked audio. Okay, they leaked doctored audio of P2B saying yes daddy, yes daddy, yes daddy. Imagine. Have you ever seen P2B in that kind of scenario? The answer is no. Then thirdly is what? Defamation of his character by someone using his documents. And the news have it this morning that that passport that particular person used to enter UK is being issued by Nigerian government and immigration. And it can only take people on the high authority to issue such instructions, and it will be followed. So they are looking for that impostor who is using P2B's credential. If I may ask, my fellow Nigerians, have you ever seen the news headline of this? Either even in the local media, where they will at least specifically tell you that the Nigerian government and the security personnel, DSS, whatever, will be out there looking for that person. Nothing of such. But Lai Mohammed is busy jumping from one radio station to the other, where he is trying to defend what is not defendable, where he is trying to cover all the money that he has been looted with other cabals in Aso Rock, claiming that P2B need to be arrested. For what? Arrested for what? That he is due to be charged for treason. Treason for what is treason? What is a treasonable offense that P2B have committed that will warrant his arrest? What statement do you think Obi have made that warrant his arrest? A doctored audio that been inspired by APC. Okay, now the current one now, which they want to make themselves popular and their Abado presidential candidate, whom they selected, not elected. Do you know what they are doing now? They went and paid what would I call it? Either a writer or editor of one newspaper. I have forgotten the name of that newspaper in the USA. The lady seems to be like is either India, Pakistani, or Bangladesh. To put the name of my dear people, I swear to God, this is laughable. This is laughable. My utmost surprise and the most painful part of it is this man that called himself San senior advocate of Nigeria, Festus Keyamo, using it to post on Twitter that their presidential select is now among the 100 influential men in the world. He forgot to mention that part. 2023, not in the world at large, but influential men, 100 influential men in 2023. Then ask me what makes this man influential. That he has spent 20 decades pursuing building a bridge to become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The same man in his acceptance speech who made the Nigerians to understand that the election was rigged, he made it open by himself. But be rest assured that tomorrow, when you challenge him with this word that their presidential select made on the day that they declared him winner, they will tell you it's a doctor, because Dela Lake have done that before, where he said town hall different from Balabulu, Bulaba, and the rest of them. Ojus Okalo, that is the people that is fighting to be Senate president. He came out and tell us that the people, even he was talking to whether Arise news analyst, no, not Arise, I think Channel News analyst, not Chamberlain, that's the other guy, Jerry, that he know that them that can internet, they can doctor anything and do that. Dela Lake went to a radio station and said it is the doctored voice. Somebody who just newly appointed, who made us to understand that the bullion van that we saw 2019 entering Bodolion residency, that those bullion van, 2 billion van with complete security, that he misroad. As if that one is not enough, we are in the form of contemplating. Maybe this man might be right or wrong. Then he come and tell us that the bullion van is empty. How do you know it's empty? How? Upon all these things, all they are trying to do is defend what is not defendable. Nigeria, on our way done. APC, on our way done. Now, the current outbreak is that Keyamo is posting that Tinubu make the list of 100 influential men. 70 years old man, oh. Chimamanda Adichie have made that top list years back, not even today. She didn't boasted with it. Festus Keyamo, with all his educational background, he end up being a professor of nonsense. Abi a son of nonsense. Oh, ABC, I wonder why one man came out. I think that one is an Hausa man or Fulani Hausa. He said, if you are defending APC, you must solely sound silly. I don't want to mention the other one so that YouTube will not block me. But that is the simple truth. They will try everything humanly possible to defend what is not defendable. 100 most influential man 2023. What makes him influential? Spreading propaganda through his exposed persons is all what makes him special. Sending what do they call it? Lai Mohammed to go out there to Washington DC or wherever to lie against P2B. Is that what made him what do they call it? Is that what made him influential? No, tell me now. I've been at the forgery. I've been at the controversies surrounding his educational background, even where he came from, and drug-related issues, offenses, and money laundering, and so many of them. Is that what makes him influential? All these things that are being named on the head of one person, can you categorically open up and tell me that it is being named on the head of those ones whom that merited that position? Because I know APC paid for it. That is their anger, and they are trying everything humanly possible to frustrate P2B. But onye ọbụla Chineke jara mmanụ enwere onye ndị iro ya eme ya, cannot do P2B anything. It's more than conquerors. Anywhere you shake him. Haven't you heard about upon this rock I shall build my temple according to the word of God? Haven't you heard about it? If we hear about Okute, Zuma rock can never be shaken. That is what P2B is. Even if you people look for him head, anyone that look for head of P2B, that person's head will replace it. I swear to Almighty God. So make una just dey mumu dey go. We dey watch una. APC, we dey watch una. Look at petition one right against Peter Obi. That election was conducted on February 27th of February 27, 2023. Confusion everywhere. All in the camp of APC. In fact, una well done. I salute una. Huh? You be una be mumu, una dey call other people mumu. They have left you behind. I beg my people, make una listen to this what do they call it? Arise News Analyst. What they got to say about this particular issue, making 100 most influential men in 2023. After all controversies surrounding the election, surrounding his date of birth, surrounding his forgery, perjury, and the rest of them drug-related offenses, and certificate of forging of certificate. Okay, my brother, I beg, make una listen to what they need to say from this Arise TV analyst. I don't want to talk much. I've already talked much already, but I don't want to stretch it further. Listen to it. As I listen, please try to subscribe to my channel. Turn on the notification button so that you always get notified each time I go live or post something new on this channel or any other channel related to Okute Daily Talk. I'll be right back again to air my own view, because I will always air my views. Yes, as you listen, share, like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be right back. Thank you so much for believing in me and for always watching on any of my content. Have a nice day and have a nice weekend. Please drink responsibly. Bye for now.
Anatsui have been named among Time's most influential personalities in 2023. Time's annual list of the 100 most influential people in the world accords recognition to people for changing the world regardless of the consequences of their actions. Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress, APC, was declared the winner of the 2023 presidential election on February 25 ahead of his rivals. He polled 8,794,726 votes. According to the Times citation on Tinubu, winning an election in Africa's most populous country is no easy feat. But it noted that Nigeria's newly elected leader has had nearly 2 decades to prepare. However, it added that Tinubu now faces a litany of crises in a fractured nation, including deep-rooted corruption, religious insurgencies, and shortages of cash, fuel, and power in a crumbling economy. Well, Dr. Abati, the Times 100 most influential list has been released yesterday, and we have 2 Nigerians on that list, one of which is the president-elect, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Well, maybe there is even a 3rd Nigerian, if you like, by association, and that would be Ella Nasori, yes, a Ghanaian, but who has done most of his work here in Nigeria. First, the Time 100, as it is done, it's published annually by the Time magazine, and the selection is done by the editors of that magazine. Sometimes also, some of their correspondents also make contributions. They've been on this since 1999, and it became popular over the years, particularly from about 2014. And the emphasis in terms of choice, it's the same emphasis that most newspapers adopt when they do maybe Man of the Year or Person of the Year or the Issue of the Year. And the emphasis is not on popularity, it's on influence. Who is that person who has influenced, the world, the environment, either for good or ill? And that's why the criteria talks about regardless of the consequences of the actions of the persons that have been selected. And it is generally considered an honor to be on that Time 100 list. I mean, out of the huge population in the world out there, to make that list means, something. It means that that person has been able to exercise influence in a particular area. And, the categories are usually about 5. People that are considered titans, people that are considered leaders, people who are, icons, or people that are role models, or, influence. But the beauty of the Time 100, in my view, is also the essays, the short essays, the profiles written on each of the individuals that have been chosen. Usually very nuanced and, very well. To say it's well written is to, understate or overstate the matter. So for this year's list, in the time 100, as you said in the introduction, Nigeria's president-elect is, a part of the list in the leaders category, along with President Joe Biden of the United States, along with the Australian Prime Minister. And, the citation on him acknowledges the fact that to be the president-elect in a country, in the most populous country in Africa, is no mean feat. And indeed, you can't argue with that. It's certainly not a mean feat, considering how competitive this election has been. But the paper also knows that the margin was narrow. The paper acknowledged the fact that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is known as the Jagaban, the leader of warriors. And that, in fact, his campaign mantra, "It is my turn," was a reaffirmation of his, place in Nigerian politics since and before the return to democratic rule in 1999 as a major power broker. Many Nigerians will also not argue with that. He has been on the scene. He didn't just show up as a presidential candidate all of a sudden. He had been part of that process. He had been a senator of the Federal Republic. He's been a two-time governor. He's also generally known as a godfather. But the paper makes one point, namely that he comes to office, yes, with a narrow margin, in an election, Time magazine tells us, that was fraught with irregularities, that is still being challenged in court, but that the president-elect of Nigeria is strongly aware of, what he is inheriting. Basically, a divided country, basically a country that is fractured, a country that faces many challenges, including corruption, including, crisis within the economy. So while profiling Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I think his profile is, in my view, even-handed. Looks at, various aspects of it, both in terms of influence that he had exercised before he got to where he is now, and influence that he exercised in emerging as president-elect of the most populous country in Africa, and then in terms of the expectations of both Nigerians and also the international community. And that's why, that emphasis, on his awareness of his inheritance and the expectations, attached thereto, would seem, in my view, to be very important. But of course, in that category, you have King Charles III, whose coronation comes up on the 6th of May, and an event for which, the monarchy in the UK is preparing. And, that's a no-brainer. And then you have Salman Rushdie, the writer, who was attacked. I think he lost an eye, just for defending free speech. And you have persons like the dissident, the Chinese dissident, Li Fa. Then in other categories of icons, you have Beyoncé, you have Angela Bassett, you have Michael Jordan. That's to show the diversity. And then you have the doctor that you refer to, Dr. Ogonia. Dr. Ogonia, professor of epidemiology, who has done, great advocacy and research in looking into the manifestation of monkeypox, now known as Mpox, in terms of how this is something that the global community should focus upon. So you see the range from, leadership to creativity to politics, and then in the case of to monarchy, in the case of Dr. Ogonia, with regard to science and research. And then, of course, Ella Nasri. Ella Nasri is a Ghanaian, and I say, a third Nigerian, because she's done most of his work here in Nigeria. One of the most influential, one of the most impactful artists to have worked, in Nigeria. In the 70s, they had the Nsukka School. The Nsukka School, Ella Nasri was part of those geniuses, who established our school. You had the Nsukka School, you had the Zaria School, you had the Yaba School. That's referring to the Yaba College of Technology, where the fine and applied arts school was very strong. And in his own case, he's known for experimentation, transforming ordinary material into, objects of vision to make statements about possibilities in terms of, artistic expression. So on the whole, I think it's remarkable, and it's good that the president-elect of Nigeria makes the list. So it's a kind of recognition that should also remind them of the heavy responsibility that has now been placed on his shoulders.
Absolutely. Congratulations to the president-elect, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for making 2023 list of Times 100 most influential personalities around the world, as Dr. Bati has highlighted, alongside a number of prominent people. But it is important to also check how or the selection process of this list is. This what could sometimes be termed as a controversial list because of the people who end up making that list. It is a list that's been recognized since the year it started in 1999, and since then a number of people have found it quite honorable to be listed. In the past, we have had Nigerians like Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, current DG of the WTO and former Minister of Finance of Nigeria, on that list. We have had celebrated also Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie on that list. We have had Dr. Obieze Kwesili on that list. So quite a distinguished honor to be on that list. However, what distinguishes this list of influential people is that it is not an endorsement of someone who is popular or someone who has done influence or done good in that regard. We can look at, in the past, the names that have appeared on there. We have had the President of the People's Republic of China, Xi Jinping, who has been on that list a record number of 13 times. We have had people like the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, on that list as well. So we have had controversial figures in the past who have been on that list. He wasn't listed this year, but he was listed in 2022, and he'd been on that list for a record 7 times. We've also had people like American President Donald Trump, hate him or love him, according to the Times list, he's been seen as an influential figure because they've been able to shape world events. Now, it's not a surprise, therefore, that the president-elect of the largest black nation in the world, or the biggest economy in Africa, is on that list, and that's in the person of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and of course the attention that the last election drew. I thought the Times staff writer who wrote the piece on him, Asta Rajvanshi, did quite a fair job in the summary of putting it together in terms of the reason why he was on that list and other concerns that might come up, including the fact that the election was contested and is before the courts. In the same vein, that could also be seen as a criticism as to why the name was included, because if the symbol of him being on that list was because he's the president-elect, and the fact that the writer herself had acknowledged that the election wasn't without irregularities was enough concern for Times Magazine to perhaps hold back. It's not the first time Times has been criticized for including a name or excluding a name, as was the case of Tony Blair or the former Prime Minister of Great Britain. Time magazine is not also known to hide or shy away from controversy. In 1938, they had as their person of the year Adolf Hitler, and that, of course, drew a lot of criticism to that list. Therefore, it begs to question what the criteria is, which they have tried year in, year out to explain that it is not about what the person has done in terms of good, but in terms of how much influence the person has, whether for good or for bad. Another aspect of that, when you look at that list, is that we celebrate greatness when we see it, especially when our own people are on national stages like that being praised, especially in recognition of the country they come from and recognizing Nigeria as an African superpower, and the fact that anyone who gets to that point or becomes the leader of this nation should indeed be acknowledged. As with the United States, year in, year out, United States presidents are featured on the Times 100 list. In terms of the popularity here in Nigeria of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu being listed, it is half and half. Of course, his supporters are rejoicing. Spokesperson for his campaign council, Festus Keyamo, has been quick to put it on his Twitter handle to congratulate him for being listed on there and to praise the fact that their candidate has been recognized as an influential personality, whilst others have criticized and said that Time magazine is being quite hypocritical in listing that name, bearing in mind how the president-elect emerged in terms of the irregularities of the election. I doubt very much if Times Magazine would apologize for that list. That is the reason why that list is there. The fact that it is a talking point for Nigerians and people around the world is indeed pointing to the fact that the personality involved is influential. The question then is it for good or for bad? Inspector General of Police Usman Baba Alkali yesterday ordered adequate deployment of supporting personnel and additional logistics for effective election security management during the forthcoming supplementary elections scheduled for Saturday, April 15. The polls will hold in specific areas across 24 states. All seem set for Saturday supplementary governorship elections in Adamawa and Kebbi states as the nation again focuses on electoral body INEC to conclude the polls. Anxious voters await the final determination of the inconclusive elections. Arise correspondent Omo Bazwaye takes a look at what's at stake in the two northern states.
On Saturday, all eyes will once again be on the governorship race in Adamawa and Kebbi states in supplementary elections to finally decide the eventual winners. The Independent National Electoral Commission INEC had declared the first round of elections on March 18 inconclusive following violent disruption of the polls in some parts, thereby setting the stage for a second round of votes in the two northern states. In Adamawa, in the northeast of the country, incumbent Governor Ahmadu Fintiri of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) will go into the supplementary polls buoyed by a emerging lead of 31,249 votes. His closest challenger and candidate of the All Progressive Congress (APC), Senator Aishatu Binani, will need to put up a more spirited effort to upturn the gap if she hopes to put her name in the record books as the first elected female governor in Nigeria. It's a tall order for Binani, but many women groups are urging her to push on and count on their support. A total of 37,706 votes are at stake in 69 polling units where the supplementary elections will hold in Adamawa State. Elsewhere in Kebbi State, APC candidate Nasir Idris and PDP candidate Aminu Bande will square up. They will go into the supplementary elections with APC already having 388,258 votes and PDP polling 342,980 votes. APC will be going into the race with an advantage of 45,278 votes in its kitty. There are 91,000 outstanding votes in the Kebbi supplementary elections, which cut across several registration areas in 20 of the 21 local government areas of Kebbi State. All eyes will also be on the Independent National Electoral Commission to ensure that the supplementary elections for the governorship, federal and state constituencies are improved upon, with results swiftly declared and uploaded on its results viewing portal so that the 2023 general elections can finally be concluded. Omo Bazwaye, Arise News.
Thank you, Omo Bazwaye, for that report. Dr. Abati, this Saturday, elections in Adamawa, Kebbi State.
Well, actually, in 24 states, in 185 local government areas, and 2,600 polling units across the country. These supplementary elections are coming up as a result of, issues arising from the elections held on March 18. And in the specific case of Adamawa, the argument put up, the rationale by INEC is that the number of cancelled votes is more than, the margin between the candidates of the PDP and the APC. the margin of victory of lead in that particular state is just about 31,000. Kebbi, the margin, as pointed out, is just over 40,000. And the rule is that if the number of cancelled votes is more than the margin of victory, then of course you conduct elections. So in both states, the two major parties involved in these supplementary elections, they are all saying they will protect their votes with whatever it takes. And you find a similar situation, even in those states where, you know, the battle is not about the margin, where the battle is about disruption during the last elections, as is the case in Gokana constituency in Rivers State. That's one of the places where there will be supplementary election. So going to the polls, you find in many of those 24 states, you know, great contestation, great determination. The party members, their supporters saying that based on what we have seen in the last election, we're now going to allow that to happen this time around. So that's why it's important that the Inspector General of Police is assuring everyone that the security agencies are ready to ensure, you know, that the voting goes on in all of these constituencies, in all the 2,600 and polling units without hitch. And I think that that is important so that we do not have cases of disruption, snatching of ballot boxes, the burning of ballot boxes, or, you know, the kind of violence that discourage voter turnout. Both the Inspector General of Police and INEC have both said, you know, people should come out. People are encouraged to come out. The leaders of the two political parties are also urging people to come out and vote en masse. And I hope that that will encourage the people to come out so that we don't have voter apathy. Because in some of the by-elections that we saw, particularly in Rivers and I think Bayelsa, you know, on the day of the by-elections, we saw young people playing football. You know, they couldn't be bothered. But I'm sure that, you know, this time around, if the police and the other security agencies, they live up to expectation, people will probably be encouraged to turn out in these states, you know, 24 states where there will be supplementary elections tomorrow to come out. What is the underlying principle here? The underlying principle here is that nobody should be excluded from participating in the democratic process. The whole idea of democracy is about participation. And the kind of disruption that we have witnessed, you know, in this 2023 process excluded so many people, deepened, you know, problems of trust. And that is why INEC also has, beyond the security agencies, a responsibility to demonstrate that it has learned certain lessons from what happened on February 25 and March 18. And these lessons will be with regard, you know, to the conduct of the elections, the conduct of the INEC ad hoc officials, and also the, you know, loading of results. And, you know, nobody would expect that in any of these states that INEC will come around again and talk about technical glitches. And above all, you know, whatever happens, it's also important that the political parties also conduct themselves in a peaceful manner. Because in Adamawa already yesterday, there was a report that certain groups were already protesting ahead of the supplementary polls tomorrow. And in Adamawa, yes, there is a lot of, understandably, you know, added pressure on public imagination. Because even before the election in Adamawa was declared inconclusive, you know, there were persons across the country who were already congratulating the candidate of the APC for emotional reasons. Of course, a lot of women took over the social media and they were saying, oh, for the first time, a woman, you know, is going to emerge through an electoral process. Before many of them, you know, later deleted their posts. So people should just be calm and not get ahead of the process and allow INEC to do its job and for the process to be concluded. As we have seen in other elections and with the petitions at the tribunals, if there are any issues arising therefrom, the due process provided for under Section 149 of the Electoral Act is for people to seek redress through the tribunals and through the courts.
Well, as we have talked about, as I mentioned earlier on, the IG of Police has assured the 24 states, including Adamawa and Kebbi State. And the reason, of course, why these states are in focus is because during the elections and in the determination of who emerges, it was quite contentious, particularly in Adamawa, where we have the potential, Nigeria has the potential of having its first female governor, and a number of people along those sentimental lines had taken a close look at the elections in that area. Also, the complaints by the PDP echoed by the presidential candidates of the PDP ahead of tomorrow's supplementary elections that despite the fact that there was a 31,000 margin of win in the favor of the PDP's candidate, Governor Umaru Fintiri, it was still declared as inconclusive because of some issues or irregularities in certain areas in the state. They felt it ought to have been called. The APC had lodged their complaint that it wasn't credible or fair, hence this rerun taking place tomorrow. All eyes will be on these states as well as the other 22 states that would be involved tomorrow. And as the IG has assured, what Nigerians are looking forward to is that this is a smaller process than we had on the 18th of March or the 25th of February, so that the security agencies hopefully are now able to handle whatever might rise. We do not, as Doctor has said, want to see what happened on the 18th of March in certain areas in terms of violence, breaking out, snatching of ballot boxes, the security agencies themselves being accused, or we saw videos of them being complicit in these areas. We hope they've been able to take lessons from there, and erring officers have been able to face disciplinary actions in that regard. We're looking forward to a peaceful, free, fair and credible supplementary elections tomorrow across the 24 states.